Welcome to the Magical Mommy Monday podcast. We really appreciate you listening. We'll be talking about everyday mom life with some pixie dust from Disney thrown in from time to time. This is a judgment-free zone. We know everyone parents differently, and we're just two moms doing our best as we figure out this whole parenting thing. So now, let's get this party started with today's episode.
So how long have you been in Puerto Rico?
Since the beginning of last year, since the beginning of 2019.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize it'd been that long. I kind of loosely followed your journey on social media, but I guess I didn't realize it'd been as long as it had been.
We were traveling too. Like we were not here during the summer. So this is going to be our first full summer here in Puerto Rico. So we really haven't experienced like the hurricane season here.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we are not too excited about that, but
Oh, no.
And we don't
Hopefully it's not too bad.
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't usually declare a home. So that might be the thing is like, we kind of always had Minnesota and Mexico as our home bases.
Right.
But when we decided, okay, we're moving to Puerto Rico, it's very much for the process of immigration. We had to say, no, this is where we live. This is home. We're residents of Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how long do you have to do that for?
Until Mike gets her citizenship.
Mm-hmm. I can apply now, but we haven't submitted the application.
Right.
So
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. And that kind of goes along with what you guys are doing. And then you can still travel. Do you just have to shorten your travel time then?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We have to be in the U.S. most of the year
Okay.
for her to remain good with the immigration people, you know.
Yeah.
They've got their rules and
Mhm.
limitations on how long you can travel while you're on a resident card, a green card.
Well, I'm sure people are curious about you, so I'm just going to jump right into the intro. Welcome to the Magical Mommy Mondays podcast. I'm Angela Dahlgren here with my co-host, Jen Snyder.
Hello.
Jen is a little patchy today. She is recording from her car. She lost power due to the hurricane. So she will be in and out throughout this episode. You'll probably primarily hear me. But I'm very excited to present our guests for today. We have Jim and Mai from the YouTube channel Spanishandgo. These are two people that I've been following for a very long time. I probably met you two, oh my gosh, 2017. I really can't even recall. Around then. And ever since then, I've been following your journey. And I'm so happy that you could be with us today. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, that sounds about right. I remember we met at my recording studio. I used to have a recording studio in town, and you came in to lay down some vocals for a project.
I did. And they only gave me like one or two chances per song to lay it down. It was very exciting because it was my first time at a studio ever. And you, Jim, were wonderful to work with. And I had to come back in a separate time because we didn't finish that night. And then that's where I met Mai. And I kind of got to hear about how you two met and everything, which I'm definitely going to bring up if you're willing to share it later.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was so fun to meet you two. And I think you went to school with my brother-in-law, Jim.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that back then. That was Brad, right?
Yeah.
And Brad was, we went to school together, and I'm sure we spoke at some point in time. But it's sort of one of those things where, you go to school with a bunch of people and you kind of know who they are, but not necessarily hang out too much.
Yeah. And that school in particular was so big anyway, that it's one of those things where you know of them, like you said. But
Right.
Maybe you said hi in passing or whatever. But that's just kind of a small world that now here we are today. And
yeah, I remember when you came into the studio, I thought, well, what a great vocalist. You seem like a pro. That was your first time in the studio.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
She's just
Okay.
a pro naturally at everything she does.
Oh, yeah, exactly. With my unbrushed hair. I don't think I even showered today. Hashtag mom life.
Yes.
That was so much fun. And you were, it was such a good experience. And the CD came out so well. And then just so you know, Jim, my parents handed that album out to everyone. And we would be at people's houses and my dad would turn it on and be like, listen, that's my daughter. That's my daughter. I'm like, oh, Dad. So embarrassing.
Proud parents.
But you did an excellent job producing that album.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. A little bit of a tangent, but I had to throw that out there. So you have a YouTube channel called Spanish and Go. If I can summarize it properly, you reached over 100,000 subscribers. I think when I checked, you were like at 103,000.
Yes.
Is that how you say it? And you travel the globe. I wrote my own little summary here. Jim and Mai travel the globe, bringing you real-world experience in different Spanish-speaking countries, showing you the culture, a deeper look into the local cities, and teaching you Spanish along the way. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that about sums it up right there. Thank you.
Except for the traveling right now.
Yeah. During non-pandemic times, yeah.
I know. It's ruining everything. So like I said, I've been a fan from the beginning, but for those of you who are listening and you're new to Mai and Jim, can you tell us how that idea came around for the channel? And what are your backgrounds as far as, like life skills and stuff like that?
Sure, yeah. So I am from Mexico, from a town called Manzanillo in the state of Colima. That's on the Pacific side of the country. And I went to college because I wanted to become a language teacher, an English teacher mainly in Mexico. But I was also teaching Spanish. I took French. And when I graduated, I realized that I wasn't going to be learning, like, quote unquote, because, I consider myself a learner. And I feel like you don't have to be in school to keep learning. But I thought, what am I going to do to keep practicing my English? Because in college, all of my lessons were in English. Everything I had to read was in English. So I had a friend, a classmate, and she was great with languages. Like, she spoke Italian. We didn't even have Italian lessons in my school, but she spoke Italian and French, and she was fluent in like a bunch of languages. And I asked her, like, what do you do to keep up with all of the languages and to have such a great accent in all of them? And she told me about this website. And that's when Jim and I met.
Yeah, we met on this language learning site, which is basically like Facebook, but for languages.
Yeah.
And you go there to find other people to practice with. And you can just chat via direct message, or you can actually schedule lessons with an actual teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And Mai and I just found each other's profiles. Just the way the website was set up, we could see that, oh, okay, she wanted to practice her English. I wanted to learn Spanish. She was already way better than I was, but we were able to connect and have basically a language exchange. Mm-hmm. And so that was basically the start of everything. After 6 months of me starting to learn Spanish, I met Mai on this website. And then 6 months later, we decided to meet up in person. We met in Mexico. And we realized that we had a mutual passion for travel and languages. And I had a background in recording. So I used to own a recording studio in Rochester, Minnesota, as we were talking about before. And so that basically set me up for what we're doing now. I run the technical side of Spanish and Go. So we have the YouTube channel, as you mentioned, and I'm usually the one setting up the camera and recording most of the footage. And Mai does most of the planning. That goes for a podcast too, by the way. That's a new thing we have. At least, when did we launch? In April? Maybe the end of
May.
Okay,
May.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, when we launched, some of our episodes were back scheduled to April, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But so that's fairly recent, and we have our website as well. And so basically, I might have jumped ahead a little bit, but we decided to combine our passions, right? Mai's a teacher. I'm a techie kind of guy. I know all about recording, and we love to travel. So we thought, let's share, let's combine our forces to share culture and language and inspire people to travel to Spanish speaking countries with our skills.
Now, before I comment, Jen, do you have anything
Yes.
to say?
I do actually. No, I think that's so cool that kind of building on what you were saying, that, you can learn outside of school. And sometimes people think like, oh, I want to learn this new language or a new skill. Oh, I have to be in a classroom for that. And there's just so much out there now that really helps build on that, or for people who have never done it before and are beginners to try to get into it. So I think it's so cool that you guys met in that way and then kind of just took it and ran with it to grow it even bigger.
Yeah, totally. And that's a good point. I mean, not only can you learn a language outside of school, you probably should, because if you ask most people, they don't become fluent in a language through school most of the time, unless their learning environment is full immersion, where you go into the class and it's all your target language until you leave every day. Then you're probably not going to become fluent from school. So you really need that. You need something extra. Because I took maybe 3 or 4 years of Spanish in middle school and high school combined. And I didn't come out of that fluent at all. I maybe understood the basics, but not been able to communicate in Spanish. I mean, you might be able to say some numbers and some letters and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I know a few words and that sort of thing. But you need a little more of a spark, right? You need to be able to realize that learning this new language allows you to travel to over 20 different countries much more comfortably. It allows you to speak with hundreds of millions of new people who you wouldn't be able to communicate with otherwise. You really need to make a connection with somebody to really get that spark to say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm invested.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. Actually, not similar at all. I just like to think that in my head. I took 5 or 6 years of Spanish. And then it wasn't until on a high school trip, I went to Spain, Italy, and France. And because of where we went, they spoke Spanish in all 3 places, that I probably learned more in those 2 weeks and picked up on more in those 2 weeks than, those 5 or 6 years combined, because I was completely immersed in the language. And so it kind of almost just like forces you to pick up on it and use it. And we went to the Dominican Republic maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And again, being immersed in it, it kind of comes back to you. And as far as what you were saying, as far as how you met and going on that website where you could talk to someone in whatever language you're studying, that seems to be my challenge now. My kids are older. I finally have time to have hobbies again. And so I'm trying to learn Spanish again. And for now, I'm starting on Duolingo because it's an app that while they're like lunch, I can just go and do a few rounds. By the way, I just watched your Duolingo video.
Oh, nice. I'm glad.
And my mom's doing it too. She just started like a week ago. And I'm like, you got to watch this video. It's so helpful. It's like, okay, Angela, I will. But just having someone to talk to is the biggest obstacle, because not everyone is learning the language that you are. And when people come here, it's kind of in reverse. They're learning English. So I think it might have been in your video where you're talking about like how I learned Spanish as an adult. Jim, you said that you found friends who would tutor you at the beginning, or friends that you knew who spoke Spanish that you could talk with. And I find even before I saw that video, that's kind of been the case for me. You almost have to be like, okay, do I know someone I can practice with? Or what you guys ended up doing is finding that website, which is a great tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we often also talk about what do we call it, like immersion,
virtual immersion.
Yes, where you find the way to immerse yourself in the language, even though you might not be able to travel to the places. So like, for example, we recommend people to join some like an online learning platform, yes, or even just like going on Facebook and finding a group in the language you are learning. For, let's say that you love cooking, there has to be a cooking group that's in Spanish. That's, I don't know, people who just share recipes, and that could also be a way for you to learn maybe some vocabulary that you then can use, or things that you love doing in your first language can help you a lot for learning your second language. So we often talk about how important it is to make your second language part of your life in order for you to really connect with it in a deeper level, I feel.
Yeah. And that virtual immersion, you mentioned your podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
Even listening to it, you might not understand all the words, but then you're getting used to the speed, which seems to really be my issue right now, is I'm really, really slow speaking it, absorbing it. But by immersing yourself in it, you kind of just get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that touches on a few points. One, as we get older, adults tend to feel like they are less able to learn a language than children. I don't feel like that's completely true. I think we become more hard-headed, and we are more easily frustrated when we don't get something right away. Because as adults, we're supposed to have it all together, right? We're supposed to know how to get through life, no problem. And so when you take on a new skill and you're making mistakes all the time, it's really hard to cope with that for some people. And so you have to get sort of past that and accept the fact that you're not going to catch everything. And I think people often fall into the trap by thinking, well, if I listen to a podcast that's all in Spanish and I don't understand it all, what's the point? Well, it's actually what children do all the time when they're learning their first language. And you just have to get used to the rhythm and the speed and the words that come up a lot. And that's going to help organize the language in your brain. Just by being exposed to it more and more, you start to grasp the things that are really important, the things that come up all the time. And your brain holds onto those things, whether you think you're catching new words or not. Your brain remembers, oh, I've heard this before. And you hear it again and again and again. And you start putting these patterns together, putting these words and short phrases together to basically absorb the language and start making sense of it. It's sort of like a reverse osmosis sort of thing that goes on. The more you're exposed to the language, we're built to learn languages. We've evolved to learn to communicate with one another in all kinds of ways. So that's part of what makes our brains so fascinating, is that we can grow up thinking that we can't do something, but if you just let your brain do what it does best and absorb information and sort it out later, then you go a lot farther by doing so.
Jen?
I was just going to say that was a really good point you made, because in high school, I took 4 years, like a lot of people do in high school, take 4 years of a language. I think my last year of it was technically a college level course, so I could get college credit for the Spanish class I was taking, which, jokes on, when I went to college, they were like, great, now you're in this advanced Spanish class. And I'm like, oh, no. I can't do all of this. But I remember in high school, my one of the teachers I had would tell us to try to find the Spanish speaking talk shows, even the telenovelas, like all these things, because hearing it more and watching it in real time and in these different situations would help us pick up the language more. And I completely feel like that helped me a lot more than probably some of my classes, because I think now if you were to ask me like, oh, can you speak another language? I say no. But if I'm watching a movie or a show or even just overhear people speaking in Spanish, I can pick up on a lot of the words where I'm like, but I don't know if you asked me right out what that word was. I could repeat it back to you, but I'm understanding what they're saying. So there's something in the brain working and absorbed a lot of things. So it just did it in this kind of weird way.
Totally. Yeah. We're wired for languages. And I think it's a myth that you can't learn languages as an adult. In fact, there's a gentleman, his name is Steve Kaufman. He's a linguist. He speaks 20 languages, and he learned most of them after 70.
Mm-hmm.
My God.
Oh
So
my God! Wow.
if anybody ever asks if you can learn a language as a result, as an adult, sorry. So switching back to English is strange to me sometimes. Takes a little while. Our lives are all in Spanish, so
Yes.
getting back to English
Yeah.
sometimes can be a little tricky. But I think he is the guy to point to if anyone asks, "Can you learn a language as an adult?" Well, look at
Mhm.
Steve Kaufman. I mean, he's an older adult, and he's able to learn many languages.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, talk about keeping your mind like quick and sharp.
Yeah.
You know that many languages. We had a speech language pathologist on the show, and I had heard the fact, and I think she confirmed it, that kids up until the age of 5 can learn endless amounts of number of languages, if as long as they're just having that constant exposure, because their brains are just sponges and can pick up so much. My being a teacher, and didn't you work in a preschool in Minnesota? I think I remember you telling me that when we met.
Yes.
What advice do you have for me, going down that Spanish road and wanting to teach my kids?
Yeah, I actually was working with children in a dual immersion program there in Rochester, Minnesota, and my students were between 3 and 4 years old. So I definitely have some experience working with kids that are the age of your children. So vocabulary is very, very important, and I would read to them all the time. Like, input is so important for children. Even if you don't speak like fluently, just by saying some words and making an emphasis. So this program that I was working in was a dual immersion. So everything was both English and Spanish. And when kids started, most of them had never had like an experience with the language, with Spanish, so they were brand new in the language. And we started with very simple things, very simple vocabulary. So everything, like, something that I love about teaching kids is that you can pretty much like act everything. So for me, it's like being in theater or something. Like, I got to make instructions for them very fun and very like exaggerated, maybe for an adult, but for a kid that's perfect. So if we were having breakfast, I would go, leche, ¿quieres leche? And so very quickly they learned all of the vocabulary that was most commonly used in like their day-to-day tasks. For example, color. ¿Qué color es? So they knew all the colors right away, the numbers, and I would count like everything with them in Spanish, maybe starting from like just 1 to 5 the first few weeks, and then just going up to 10. And then by the end of the semester, kids were counting up to 30 in Spanish. And for parents, that was like, oh, wow, I had no idea that my kid could count up to 20 or 30 in Spanish. And so vocabulary is really important. Input, just reading to them in Spanish. There are a lot of books that you can find now that are both in English and Spanish. So one night you can read to them the book in Spanish, the story in Spanish, and then the next day you can go with the same story in English or in Spanish. I forgot which one I said, but alternated. The same book, both in English and Spanish, and that's gonna help them just by knowing, like, in English, they have an idea of what the story is about, and then they hear it in Spanish, and that is just like, oh, okay, so this is what rojo means, because I heard that you said that yesterday in the story in English, that's red. Oh, okay. So they're making connections, even though you are not, like, they're not telling you, oh, that's red, oh, that's this and that, but the things are happening in their brains.
I just wanted to add, as a language student, I think what Mai was saying about exaggerating your speech and movements, I think that is extremely helpful. I remember, and this method of teaching is called comprehensible input, where you can basically guess what is being said from the gestures or from a drawing or from the context.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my first teacher who really showed me what this was for a German class. And he did this all the time in middle school. He was always kind of miming everything. And that really helps you pick up a language from context. You can always say, ¿cuántos hay? And you have a number of things in front of you. And then you count with them. Uno, dos, tres. Well, if you do that every day, they'll pick up what cuántos hay means. How many are there, right? Just from the context of over and over again. You don't have to sit and study cuántos hay. Okay, cuántos means how many. Hay means there are. That is kind of a boring way to learn, especially for children. So I think comprehensible input is fantastic, not just for children, but also for adults, because it keeps things interesting.
But really, it's how I worked at a preschool as well. It's how kids learn English, here by that repetition, like how many ducks are there? 1, 2, 3. It's you're singing the alphabet over and over and over. It's that repetition. It might not be exciting, but saying those words over and over, those phrases, it's how, at the end of the day, we learn any language.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for those tips. And I almost, while you were talking, I almost grabbed a pad of paper. I went like this. I'm like, wait, I should let her finish. Just my English, Spanish, children's books.
Yes.
Some of those now. That's such a good idea, because then they'll hear the same story in both ways.
Right.
Before I ask my next question, Jen, do you have anything to report on?
No, I mean, I was basically going to agree with everything, and just the idea of, you can kind of assume a word based on a gesture, or I immediately think of my kids' like ABC's book, where you're learning about each letter, and A is for apple, B is for ball. And there are times where there'll be an angel next to the letter A, but my daughter will be like, A is for princess. Well, no, but that's an angel. Yeah. So, but it is so important, and it does help, because if you can't really comprehend just listening to a word necessarily, you can kind of see a picture in your mind, and that might help you absorb the language so much better.
Yeah. And it's a lot more interesting than turn to page 3. Now you're going to study this list of vocabulary for tonight.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, and then I want to talk about other things that you have going on, because I have it all written down. But first, I want to turn the tables back to me, because I have some questions and I need the professionals to help me. Will I be a complete failure at learning the Spanish language if I cannot roll my R's?
No, not at all.
No, in fact, there are many people whose first language is Spanish and they can't roll their R's. I don't know if you've ever heard anyone from Costa Rica speak.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so the way they pronounce the R is very different than the way we in Mexico do it. And also here in Puerto Rico, a lot of people on the southwest part of the island, the way they roll their R's, it's like a French R.
It's like a
Yes. So
I gotta see how I do it now. Puerto Rico. I can't do it. I'm embarrassed now. Puerto Rico.
No,
I sound
that's
dumb.
good. You just sound like a Costa Rican.
Okay, so
because they don't roll their R's.
Oh gosh, it's very frustrating. And I have done Spanish since middle school, and I still suck.
Well, we have a video about this, and it's helped some people who previously could not roll their R's finally roll their R's. So I encourage you to check that out. But if you can't, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
You can still speak Spanish.
Did you do this video a few years ago? A couple years ago?
Yes.
I may have watched it.
Oh, okay.
I might have been desperate. I should rewatch it, though, now that I'm actually relearning the language. I do love your videos, because not only are they helpful when learning the language, but they're interesting. It's not like you're sitting down, you're like, okay, time for my Spanish lesson. Like, it's
Yeah.
good production quality first off, because, you have that techie background, but then you're actually learning, and it's a variety of different things. Like there's topics such as how to order in a restaurant, but you're actually sitting in a real restaurant ordering from what I assume to be a real waiter.
Yes.
Because you get your food and everything, unless you set this up beforehand, and then I say,
No.
well done. But it was very authentic.
Yeah, that's usually our format. We show up somewhere and we set up the camera, or I follow put a microphone on, and we don't announce what's going on. We just do it. And so far that hasn't caused any problems. No one's been upset about what we're doing, because we just want to capture the authentic experience. What is it really like to go shopping in Spanish? What is it really like to order food in Spanish?
Yeah.
Well, and it makes it real. Even I think you did like a small talk video. And these are things that, if for, I guess, people who do these things every day, they just don't think about, like, well, yeah, of course you say like, hi, how are you? Are you from around here? But you two have two completely different perspectives. So you guys just think differently. So you think, gosh, this is something that people would probably want to know. And because of that, I think that definitely contributes to your channel being a success, which, how long have you done it now? 2 years? 2 years?
No, a little bit more than that. But I think we started in 2016.
In the fall.
In the fall of 2016. But were we in Rochester?
When we started the channel, we uploaded our first video from Colima. We had gone to the volcanoes of Colima, which the active volcano there is the most active volcano in Mexico, or at least it was when we recorded that episode. And we didn't really know what we were doing starting out. We knew we were going to have a channel. Actually, early on, the first idea was a podcast.
Yes.
And we recorded a number of episodes that we never even published. Those are available for our patrons on Patreon. Sort of embarrassing to hear myself in those early stages of learning, but that's the process we all go through. But yeah, we published our first video as sort of a vlog explaining what we were doing, making a video about the volcanoes of Colima.
Yeah.
As part of like an inspiration for people to go to a Spanish-speaking country and look at all the things you can do by learning this language, basically.
Yeah, and after that, we went back to Rochester, to Minnesota, and I think we spent there like a year trying to save up some money, because we knew we wanted to travel. We knew we wanted to do this, but we knew that we needed the money. So we went back to Rochester, worked for a little bit. And then when was it that we decided that we were going to be like 100%?
I think it was the summer of 2018 where I shut down my studio. I sold most of my equipment. We decided we're going to move to Mexico and, spend some time in Mexico, because obviously we can't be out of the country for too long to stay good with the immigration offices and everything. But we decided then, okay, we're doing this. Yeah, so the beginning, when we started the channel, it was very inconsistent. But starting 2018, that's when we really thought, okay, we're doing this.
Well, I feel like if you're doing a travel channel, that's kind of how it goes, because how many people can really truly travel for a living? It's hard. And can you provide any tips for people who need to travel on a budget or have to travel on a budget? Because I can imagine from the start, before your channel really grew, that's something you might have had to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there are different things you can do. We were actually just talking about it the other day, how there are some websites where you can like go and stay at someone's house and take care of their pets while they're away. And that's something that you sometimes can do for free. I know for some of these websites, you have to pay like
it's like an application fee for the website, or a membership for the website.
Yes. But that's a way to do it. Also, there are some other organizations that have like volunteering experiences where you have like a connection with some organization in another country, and they're willing to give you a place where to sleep, food in exchange for you to do some work with them. So that's another way.
Yeah, and to give specifics, because people
Mhm.
generally like to know, okay, what are these websites where I can go and travel for free?
Yes.
World Packers is a website where you can volunteer, so you can find something that looks interesting to you. For example, in non-pandemic times, you could go to Guatemala and help out at a school there in
Yeah.
Guatemala for underserved children and get your room and board covered, your
Mhm.
food, most of your meals covered.
Yeah, we actually did that right before the pandemic started.
Yeah, pretty much
Oh,
right
wow.
when they declared the pandemic, we
We
were
were
on a
in
trip
Guatemala.
in Guatemala.
Oh my gosh.
But there are tons of opportunities. If you go to the website we mentioned, there are so many opportunities
Yes.
to go and just volunteer your time. So basically, the most expensive part are plane tickets and something like that.
Mhm.
And same with house sitting. If you can find a website where someone would like someone to come into their house and take care of their pets while they're gone for a couple of months, that is a very cheap way to get around, because usually it's accommodations and food that are the most expensive things. And then after that, probably flights. And I'd love to get into that because I definitely geek out on the points side of things.
Yes.
Oh,
While we were saving up to travel to actually go for this full time, we were able to save up enough points to fly 26 times. We were able to get 26 plane tickets basically for free using a travel point strategy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is my brother-in-law. I don't know if you knew Jim. He passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. He traveled for the 3 years before he died, and he like had this travel card hack thing like on lock, and he like had a bunch of different cards. He paid them all off, but like he completely hacked the point system. And is there a website where people learn to do this? Because so many people seem to have figured this out, and I'm just like over here with my Delta card. Like, look at me, I'm really cool. Like, I have no idea how people figure this out.
Absolutely. Well, I wrote a blog post about how we do it, and I think it's well, one of the posts is I can give you the link, but it's how we were able to fly. I don't remember the title off the top of my head. Something like how we were able to get 26 flights for free using travel cards, basically. The Ultimate Guide to Travel Banking. I don't think that's the one. That helps. It helps to know how to manage your money when you're abroad, because sometimes people just say, "Oh, I'm going to exchange my money at the airport." That's one of the worst ways to exchange your money. You'll get the worst rate. Helpful to know. Those are the types of things that are helpful to know when you're traveling.
And you
But
have
there's also-
videos that explain these kind of topics too, don't you?
Yeah. We have a video that explains how we were able to accumulate so many points. There's also blogs like The Points Guy. I found it now. How I earned over $2,200 for travel in less than 2 hours. If that doesn't sound sensationalist.
Clickbait.
It's too good to be
Clickbait
true.
But it's true. We pulled
is
it up.
true,
And
yes.
anyone else can do it, really. As you do have to know how to pay off your cards
Yes.
in full every month, but you can totally take advantage of the system.
Yeah, I know that I see a lot of the good deal point wise around like the holidays when people like they do the card offers, but that's the only hack I know. That's it.
Yeah, well, the sign-up bonuses are huge. That's where you can get a ton of points pretty quickly just by strategizing what you're going to spend your money on. Like,
Yes.
it's not about just meeting the sign-up bonuses. It's knowing ahead of time,
Yes.
In the first 3 months, you have to spend kind of thing.
Right,
Yeah.
but if you know you're going to buy a computer this year, you could just wait until the time's right to where you can use a card to buy that computer and get a whole bunch of points for free.
We've done that
basically.
every time we need to change our computers or our phones. Yeah.
Yeah, we take out a new credit card, get the points, and cancel it
And
afterwards.
bye.
You heard it here, folks. I love this. I find this so interesting. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to. Okay, I have like 12 more minutes. I don't want to keep you more than an hour. But okay, if you want to learn more about their travel hacks, because I think this is so interesting, you can check out their blog, and they have a bunch of YouTube videos about traveling and things like that, because I know I've seen them on your channel before. I will put your social media in the show notes. So
Awesome.
check
Thanks.
that out. Okay, so let's talk about what you have besides the channel. I know that you guys had been doing at least one immersion retreat, but possibly
Yes.
more, but I for sure saw one. Can you tell everyone more about that?
Yes, we started last year taking small groups to Mexico for an Spanish immersion retreat experience with us. So we set up 3 different locations. We go to Guanajuato City in the state of Guanajuato in Mexico, and that's central Mexico. That was the first one we did, and that's, I think it's both of us favorite city in Mexico. It's just such a beautiful place, full of history, full of culture. And so after spending a few months there, we decided if we are ever going to bring a group of people to Mexico, it has to be here. And so we have done 2 in Guanajuato so far, an experience in Guadalajara in Jalisco, and we did one last year there as well. And we also planned one in Mexico City. So we have 3 locations now.
Okay, and do you keep everyone in the same city at a time, the same group in one city?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've done 3 retreats now. We would have done at least 5 by now if there wasn't a pandemic, because we were building these up so we could do more and more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basically we have a city as a home base. We often do some travel for our excursions.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, in Guadalajara, that's tequila country. So of course we have to take people on the tequila train that goes to the town of Tequila, and they get to try a bunch of tequila and learn where it's grown and how it's grown and how it's processed. And for example, in Guanajuato, we take our groups at least for one day to San Miguel de Allende, which has been voted, I think, one of the best cities to live in the world.
Wow.
And so a lot of people enjoyed just getting a chance to check out that city. But we strategically pick the cities that we do so that people actually have to immerse themselves in Spanish.
Yes.
Because if we went to Cancun, it would be way too easy for them to resort to English. So we go to cities where not too many people speak English. So they have to force themselves to speak Spanish.
Now, what gave you that idea to do a retreat, and were you nervous? Were you like, oh, is this going to be too much of an undertaking? Are people going to sign up? Like, what gave you that idea?
Angela, we were so nervous.
Oh my
We
gosh,
were
I'd be
so
freaking out.
nervous.
Yes.
I'd be so anxious.
I think I had a little bit of like a panic attack right before, like when we were deciding that we were going to do it. And I think that's just something that's very common for most people. We don't feel like we are ready for something when maybe we are, but we tend to doubt the things we do, whether it's like learning a language or, we always say like, oh no, I know Spanish, but I'm not fluent. So no, I'm just a little bit. And maybe you are at a decent level. Maybe you can have a basic conversation, but we tend to doubt ourselves. And I did that. I still do. But when we were thinking about it, like since Jim and I met, I love being like the tour guide. I love learning about the places I am visiting, and I love just sharing the like interesting facts about a place with people. And since we met, I was that person for him. Like he went to Mexico and I got to show him around my state and Guadalajara, Jalisco, Colima, all of the places where, I was working in Jalisco, I was living in Colima. So I got to be that person for him. And so when we decided that we wanted to combine our passions and start this, the website and the YouTube channel, that was always like the immersion experiences or the or taking groups to Mexico was always there, but
we didn't know when we'd be ready.
Yeah, we didn't know. And so after living in Guanajuato, after being there for a few months, we just fell in love with that city, like a little bit more each day. And we just said, I think this is a great place. And I think we could put together an itinerary. And we knew that the culture is there, like the history of the country, everything, like the independence movement started right there. So we knew that if we were ever going to do it, it was going to be that place. And Jim is always the one who is more bold. I think he's always like looking for new things to do and like, we can do this and we should do that. And I'm always the one being like, no, I don't know if we're ready. Or but...
That's me. I'm the anxious person.
Yes,
always.
Yes. So we started talking about it more and more. And when he said, I think we should do it this year, I think we're ready, I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Gosh.
There's a lot of work involved and a lot of responsibility to be in charge of 10 people, some of whom have never even visited Mexico before, and plan an entire week that would be fun and interesting and educational. It was very stressful, but now we've done enough to where we could do one in Guanajuato tomorrow. Like it feels very natural now.
Yes.
Well, all of a sudden you became a tour guide and a travel agent, and you have to make these people feel secure and safe and like you know exactly what you're doing. And that's a lot that you just added. But I think people's natural reaction, I don't know if we're built this way primally or what, but a new opportunity comes up and I think we immediately say, no, too scary. I can't do that. Or maybe that's just me and that's how I'm built.
No, I think most of us are afraid of change.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I mean, if you ever doubted how good you would be at that and being a tour guide, I think everyone should watch your Day of the Dead video. It is my favorite video on your channel. I love it so much. It is so beautiful. It is so well done. It's like a vlog and a tour all at once. I can't describe it. You bring everyone through a few different cities and then you take them through an entire day/weekend of Dia de Muertos. Okay, side question. Dia de los Muertos or Dia de Muertos? I'm trying to say
both.
Okay.
Yeah, we say both. Yeah. Dia de Muertos, Dia de los Muertos. Both of them are correct.
Okay. Because I don't know what I should say, and I tried to say it fast just now to sound cooler, and I messed it up. It didn't work.
That happens to me all the time. When I'm speaking to a new Spanish teacher, I'm like, oh, I'm going to bust out a bunch of slang from their country, and then it doesn't come out the way I expect it to every time. But
that is actually my favorite video that we have.
Is it really?
It's
my favorite. Yeah. I think I watched it. And here, I have it actually pulled up because I was watching it again before. It was 2018, so it was 2 years ago. I watched it when I was really tired one day. I just was in bed. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to click on this. And oh my gosh, favorite video. Just could not stop watching. It's just so beautifully edited too. Just some of the shots. I'm going to stop gushing because I'm just fangirling way too much. But it's so, so beautiful. And I love the whole tradition anyway. So good job, guys.
Thank you.
I'm glad you like that one. We definitely put in a lot of work into that one, especially because it's such an important tradition in Mexico, such a unique tradition that's often misunderstood. And so we wanted to show people how it's really celebrated.
Yeah, that video was actually 2 years in the making.
Yeah.
Really?
We went to Michoacan twice, 2 separate years to record that video.
Yeah.
So is that 2 years worth of footage?
Yes.
Well, the celebration only happens once a year. So when the first time we were there, we didn't know what we were doing. I think it was very early. I think that was the first trip we took with the idea of making a vlog, kind of like that style, like it's a vlog, but it's also like a cultural thing. So we we didn't know that when you are making a vlog, you have to record everything. Like you can't just appear in a place. You have to we turn on the car and then we get in the car.
B-roll.
Everything.
So
Yes.
much B-roll.
Yes.
Oh,
So we went the first time we did like the interviews with people, and we stayed the night at the cemetery there in the island. But then we went back home and we were like, okay, let's put this together. We don't have a story. We don't have like a line. And so we were like, I think we're going to have to wait until next year. And so we went back the next year.
We were noobs. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yes.
Oh, it's my favorite word. I love the word noobs. No, I talk about delayed gratification too, but you completely honored the tradition. And it was, I think like the words hauntingly beautiful is how I would describe it. Oh my gosh, like the cemetery scenes, that B-roll is just, it's my favorite. It's my favorite. Oh my gosh. Just captures the whole tradition. Okay, I'll stop talking about it. Okay. So you have the podcast that you launched in May. You have an ebook and then Travel Spanish Confidence. Can you talk about those two? Are they separate? Are they the same thing?
Yeah, so we have a free ebook that's available to anyone who signs up for our newsletter. You can get that at spanishandgo.com right there on the first page. It covers a lot of important phrases for learning Spanish, so you can dive in and learn some real Spanish right away. We think it's really important to try to learn phrases and groups of words more than just individual vocabulary, because real phrases actually get you somewhere, right? And it gives you a lot of motivation to have a few phrases under your belt, because really quick with Spanish, you can sit down and say, I'm going to learn Spanish today. And at the end of an hour or two, have the basic knowledge to be able to greet somebody, to introduce yourself. And that might sound overwhelming to someone who might be just thinking about learning Spanish, but it's very realistic. The fact of the matter is, most of the time, the way we've learned languages from schools just are not very effective. So by downloading the PDF, you can get off to a good start by knowing some basic phrases. The course, Travel Spanish Confidence, is designed to get students ready to travel to a Spanish-speaking country and have confidence when they go. So they can learn things like small talk and how to ask for directions and how to order food. But unlike the YouTube videos, they're actually having to actively listen to what they're hearing and repeat back at different periods throughout the audio. So as they're listening, you build your vocabulary, but you also build the confidence to be able to respond to basic phrases that you're going to hear all the time when traveling.
So you created this. You produced this yourselves.
Yes.
Yes. Mai's the teacher, so she had a bigger hand in designing the course and the curriculum and everything. But yeah, we built it from the ground up.
Like pretty much everything we've done, it's always been just us.
Oh my gosh. And you've grown so much that, I mean, according to your website, you have a team of 2 people. So is that for your tours, or is this for the blog? What do they do on that end? Is it Anna and Madison?
That's right.
Yes.
We should really add, when we say we've done everything ourselves, from the course design and creating the retreats, that's been all us. Madison and Anna are writers for the website, and Madison also assists in promoting the podcast.
Yes, and Anna has also helped with the some of like the coordination of the one of the retreats. She was also teaching along with me in the Guadalajara retreat.
But for the longest time, it was just the 2 of you. Like, you 2 have truly started this from the ground up, and you've gotten to the point where you need other people, which is amazing. Like, are you so proud of yourselves? You're like, what we've done.
Every time we think about having a business online that is what it is, that's hard to explain to a lot of people. It took the longest time to be able to explain in a way that our parents would understand how we make money.
Yes.
We kind of have to pinch ourselves that we actually have an online business and we're able to run it from anywhere in the world. But yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get to this point, but it's very possible.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people would like to have that location independence, and there are jobs out there that can be done all online, and our business is proof of that. And we were inspired by other people who were able to pull it off as well before us, and who have gone on to have very successful careers writing in their blog. Basically, there are jobs that pay very well if you're able to build up a business online. The thing about it is it's so expandable, right? Teachers can teach to usually maybe up to 30 students at a time. And even that's pushing it, right? That's really hard. That's generally considered to be kind of a big class.
Yeah.
But it's not uncommon. But when you teach online, you can teach to millions or billions of people at a time.
Yeah, like right now, someone's watching our videos on YouTube, and we're here having this conversation with you.
I know.
So it's the closest thing you can do to cloning yourself.
And you're only
That's the way I see it.
limited. You're only limited by your imagination too.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think the difference between you two and anyone else with the same idea is that you are brave enough to try to execute it. You know, that's the hardest part, is you have these amazing ideas, but it's like, oh no, I can't do that. It's too scary, or it's too hard, or too much work. But you two took an idea and thought, okay, well, how can we execute it? What are the steps we need to take? And then you made it happen. And so, I mean, it just takes so much courage and hard work and organization. And it's just, I mean, look what you've done. I'm excited for you. Okay, so what are your future plans for Spanish and Go? Is there still going to be a Spanish and Go? Do you have bigger plans? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Yes, well, the main goal is to visit every Spanish-speaking country, territory, place in the world, and make videos about our experience in each one of these places. We want to motivate people to learn the language and go to the places we are showing them, just so they know that, like, languages can bring you so much and can change your life in so many ways through the people you meet in the places you visit and the experiences you have in these places. And so that's our main goal. But right now we can't really go anywhere.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's still our number one goal, just motivating people to travel and learning and experiencing other cultures.
Right. We're kind of establishing a foundation of basic Spanish lessons on our channel. We don't usually call them basic. We don't usually separate our lessons from, okay, this is if you're a beginner, this is if you're intermediate. We just try to show what it's like to speak Spanish in a foreign country, in situations where you're going to want to know how to speak Spanish. And I think by following our videos, you can gain a lot of confidence and inspiration for traveling to Spanish-speaking countries. And like I said, learning a new language is life-changing. It can benefit you in so many ways. It can lead to, the love of your life, like in my case, where I met Mai. It can open up tons of possibilities career-wise for you. It can allow you to move to another country where it might be cheaper than living in your own country if you're able to work online. And it is something that has opened up more possibilities than I could have ever imagined. And we want to be able to share that with other people. We want to inspire people to do the same, to go out, to really experience new cultures, to really experience new countries like a local, because it's very different to go on vacation. I'm going to pick on Cancun again. I know I mentioned them earlier. And
that's a perfect place to
and go to an all-inclusive resort and be afraid to leave. And this is common. People ask all the time, or hear all the time, well, Mexico's safe as long as you stay within the resort range. Mexico's a lot safer than most people realize. And it's even safer when you know some of the language, because people are going to respect you so much more and look out for you, honestly, when they realize that you're there trying to learn from their culture. You're trying to make connections. You're trying to learn what their country is all about. That in a way puts up kind of a shield around you where you're a lot safer than you might think. Now, I'm not going to say like go to Mexico and don't be street smart. Of course you have to. And that should be the case anywhere you travel.
Yeah.
But as long as you are street smart and you're trying to speak the language and you're trying to learn about the culture, people are going to respect you so much more, and it's going to open up tons of possibilities for you to make some real lasting connections.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's beautifully said. And just from my own experience, you have definitely inspired me just from watching your journey from, I guess not quite the beginning because I met you guys a year later, from the almost beginning. I actually said to my husband today, I said, once I get a little more fluent, I really want to go to another Spanish speaking country. And he was totally on board. You know, him
Awesome.
having like 2 years of German under his belt. He's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay, you might want to learn a few phrases too. So I'll be directing him to your YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the show. Can you take this opportunity to say all of your social media handles and your website in case people haven't looked at the show notes yet?
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can find us at Spanish and Go pretty much everywhere. We are on Facebook, Instagram. The YouTube channel is also Spanish and Go.
Anywhere you listen to podcasts, if you type in Spanish and Go, will pop up. And
the name of the podcast is Learn Spanish and Go. But yeah.
And spanishandgo.com is our website.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And everything is on their website too, because I literally looked at it today and everything that they mentioned is on their website. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give us a review on iTunes if you'd like. You can find us on Twitter at Magic Mom Monday, Instagram at magicalmommymondays, and our email is magicalmommymondays@gmail.com. I hope that you have a great day, night, whatever you're doing, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.